Ladies and gentlemen, there exists a silence that enters the room before a word is spoken, an invisible force, a presence. Some call it charisma, others energy, but the ancient ones knew it by a different name, aura. And when yours is powerful, it doesn't just exist, it echoes, it reverberates. And yes, sometimes it disturbs. Not because you intend harm, but because your very presence reflects something in others that they have long buried. And so the disturbance is not truly about you. It is a mirror held up to the hidden self of the other. There are signs, quiet yet unmistakable, that your aura is stirring the waters. People react strongly to you without knowing why. You walk into a space and some are magnetized while others pull away. This is not personal, it is energetic. You awaken something asleep. 2, you are misunderstood often, deeply and widely. You speak truth, but it is not received as intended. Why? Because truth spoken from a centered soul rattles those not ready to hear their own. 3, strangers either confide in you or avoid you altogether. Your presence bypasses surface layers. For some, that's freeing. For others, terrifying. Or you feel alone even in a crowd because few can meet you where you are. Depth is not the common language. 5, people project onto you. They assign you motives, identities, shadows that are not yours. This is the psyche protecting itself from illumination. 6, you make people question themselves, not through critique, but through contrast. Your alignment reveals their miss. 7, authority figures feel challenged by your presence, even when you do not speak, because power that isn't borrowed threatens those who only wear it as a mask. 8, you don't chase, you attract, because your energy speaks before you do, and it speaks truth. 9, you trigger transformation in others unintentionally. Simply being in your orbit can awaken someone else's process. Some are grateful, some resent you for it. 10, small talk exhausts you because your aura seeks substance, not distraction, and superficiality feels like a lie. 11, you are a sanctuary and a storm. You calm the chaos in some and stir it in others. Both are gifts. 12, you are accused of being too intense or too much, but only by those who are not yet ready to feel the full spectrum of life. 30, your presence lingers. Long after you leave, something remains, an impression, a ripple, a shift. You see, a powerful aura does not mean perfection. It means presence. It means alignment. And alignment is disruptive because it reveals every way the world is out of tune. So if others are unsettled by you, do not shrink. Do not dilute your essence to fit a container too small for your soul. You were not meant to comfort the unready. You were meant to wake them. When a person carries within them a particularly vibrant, unwavering sense of self, an aura that resonates with deep authenticity, it tends to create a response in others that is often misunderstood, both by the one who emits it and those who receive it. This reaction is not always warm, nor is it always conscious. In fact, the more potent a person's energy becomes, the more likely it is that others will respond to it from the hidden corridors of their own psyche. They may feel irritated, confused, uncomfortable, even hostile, yet be unable to explain why. They may blame the radiant person, assuming arrogance or ill intent, when in truth they are reacting not to a person, but to what that person represents. We like to imagine we are rational beings, driven by logic and clarity, but the reality is far more nuanced. Much of human behavior originates not in the conscious mind, but in the deeper, darker layers, the unconscious. These are the regions of our psyche that house our wounds, our repressed desires, and the parts of ourselves we've deemed unacceptable. Most people walk through life with significant portions of their soul exiled to these shadowy places, unseen and unfelt. But when someone with a powerful aura enters the scene, they don't just bring their personality, they bring their wholeness, including aspects of themselves others have never dared integrate. This wholeness creates a vibrational contrast. It is not loud or aggressive. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare, but it moves through the air, through the body, through the subtle field of everyone present. The result is a reaction that can seem entirely out of proportion. The person with the powerful aura may have said nothing offensive, done nothing unusual, yet they find themselves facing tension or aversion. This is because their inner light, rooted in deep alignment, has disturbed the slumbering part of the other person's psyche. It has awakened something unacknowledged. To understand this, we must consider the psyche as a system of mirrors. Every individual we encounter becomes a reflector surface. The more developed and integrated a person is, the clearer that mirror becomes. So when someone with a powerful aura steps into a room, they inadvertently become a mirror. Too pure, too honest, too revealing. Others look into them and, often without realizing it, begin to see themselves more clearly. But not all reflections are comforting. When a person has not faced their own fear, insecurity, or falsehood, the sight of someone who has can be deeply unsettling. They may feel judged even if no judgment is present. They may feel inferior even if the radiant individual has shown only kindness. This is not because of something being done to them, but because something within them is being stirred, called to the surface. The discomfort they feel is the psyche attempting to maintain its familiar boundaries, to keep the unconscious from spilling into the light of awareness. The person who triggers that feeling becomes a threat, not because of any action, but because of their very being. It is crucial to understand that this kind of reaction is rarely logical. It is deeply emotional, often irrational, and it comes from the parts of people that are still fragmented. The person with the powerful aura does not disturb others by intention. In fact, many such individuals are deeply empathetic and sensitive to the emotional currents around them. They may even feel responsible for the disruption, wondering if they have overstepped or said too much. But in reality, their only offense was to be fully themselves in a world that often punishes authenticity. This is the great paradox of inner power. It attracts and repels in equal measure. It is magnetic because it signals something rare. An individual who has journeyed inward, faced their shadows and emerged with clarity. But it also threatens the fragile illusions others have constructed to protect themselves from that same journey. We are drawn to what we need, but we often resist it when it appears. This is especially true when what we need requires us to change. And so the radiant person becomes a kind of catalyst, unintentionally. Their mere existence becomes a question mark hanging over the status quo. They don't just enter a room, they shift its frequency. This shift is not always welcome. It's felt before it's understood. It's reacted to before it's reasoned with. Some will sense safety, inspiration, or the beginning of their own awakening. Others will feel threatened, as if their carefully constructed identity is at risk of crumbling. The key to navigating this, for those who carry such an aura, is to understand the source of the disturbance. It is not about you, not really. It is about what you evoke. Your energy touches places in people they may not yet be ready to meet. The reaction is not necessarily a rejection of your character. It is a defense mechanism of the unconscious, trying to preserve its hidden compartments. Still, this doesn't make it easy. It can be lonely, it can be exhausting, but it can also be profoundly meaningful. For in disturbing others, you are doing the sacred work of shaking the foundations of stagnation. You are a reminder that the self is not a fixed structure, but a living, evolving force. And by simply standing in your truth, you invite others, however reluctantly, to do the same. So when others are disturbed by your presence, do not be quick to apologize for it. Instead, understand that it may be the beginning of their transformation. The disturbance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that your energy is real, and reality, when it is powerful enough, always ripples through illusion. To exist as a truly authentic being in the modern world is to take on a silent rebellion. It is to choose the path of inner alignment over external acceptance, to prioritize truth over ease, and to risk being alienated rather than diluted. Most people don't even realize they are hiding. They wear the masks society gave them, crafted from expectation, fear, tradition, and conditioning. And they wear them so long that the mask becomes mistaken for the face. But authenticity, real authenticity, tears that illusion away. And when someone lives authentically, not as an act of defiance, but as a natural unfolding of self, they disrupt the delicate equilibrium of the false identities that surround them. A powerful aura is not forged through dominance or loudness. It is born from a kind of internal congruence, a state where thoughts, feelings, words, and actions reflect a unified core. This individual has met themselves at the deepest level. They are not perfect, but they are whole. And this wholeness expresses itself as clarity, purpose, and stillness. When someone moves through the world with this kind of energy, they become both deeply attractive and deeply unsettling. They remind others of a freedom they've forgotten. They are living proof that it is possible to be oneself without apology, and that very proof feels like a confrontation to those who are not yet ready to embrace their own truth. Huh? The world, despite its professed love for originality, often rewards conformity. From early childhood, people are taught to mold themselves to fit in, into classrooms, into families, into workplaces, into ideologies. We learn to suppress the parts of us that are too wild, too emotional, too unconventional, too different. We learn to minimize what is most sacred in us so that we are not seen as difficult, strange, or rebellious. But authenticity refuses to be minimized. It refuses to contort itself to satisfy the fears of others. It is not a mask we put on. It is the act of removing every mask we've ever worn. And because most people are still clinging tightly to their disguises, when they encounter someone who is maskless, their first instinct is not admiration, it is discomfort. This is why individuality can feel dangerous to others. It does not threaten them in any physical way, but it shakes their inner architecture. The authentic person is often judged, criticized, or pushed to the margins, not because they have done something wrong, but because they have done something rare. When someone embodies their individuality fully, it is as if they vibrate on a different frequency. Others can feel it without understanding it. They sense that this person cannot be manipulated easily, that they will not say what is expected just for approval, that their values cannot be bought or bent, and this can be unnerving. For those still dependent on external validation, the presence of someone who is internally anchored can feel like an unspoken judgment, even when no judgment is present. It is simply that the existence of such a person reveals the compromises others have made with themselves. Authenticity also brings with it a particular kind of loneliness. The more true you become, the fewer people you find who truly understand you. The connections you once rely on may feel hollow. Conversations that once passed for meaningful may now feel shallow or scripted. You begin to crave depth, integrity, resonance, and because you no longer tolerate the false, the performative, or the manipulative, many social doors close quietly behind you. But in that narrowing of the external, unsettle, a vast internal space opens up. You begin to experience life from the inside out rather than the outside in. And that shift is where your aura gathers its strength. You stop living to be seen and begin living to see, clearly, deeply, without the fog of societal expectation. You become someone who does not just react, but reflects. Someone who does not just exist, but chooses how to exist. This level of intentional living radiates a kind of force that cannot be faked. It is felt. People may not be able to articulate what they feel around you, but they will feel it nonetheless. It may unsettle them, inspire them, or cause them to recoil, but it will not go unnoticed. There is also a quiet danger in authenticity. It invites projection. Others may assign to you the very things they repress in themselves. They may say you are arrogant when you are simply confident. They may say you are cold when you are merely self-contained. They may accuse you of being too much or too intense when really they are uncomfortable with their own numbness. Your refusal to shrink highlights the places they have shrunk. Your self-expression makes them painfully aware of their silence. Still, the authentic person does not seek to disturb. They simply refuse to disappear. And this refusal becomes a light, sometimes blinding, sometimes guiding, but always illuminating. In this way, authenticity becomes a responsibility, not to fix others or prove anything, but to remain rooted in the self, despite the world's confusion, criticism, or misunderstanding. It takes great courage to live without disguise. It takes even greater strength to endure the reactions that come with that choice. But what you gain is worth more than comfort or approval. You gain integrity. You gain clarity. You gain peace that does not depend on applause. And your aura, powerful and pure, becomes not just a reflection of who you are, but a silent invitation to others to remember who they were before they forgot themselves. There is an old adage that light disturbs darkness. It is simple in its phrasing, but profound in its meaning. Light, when it enters a dark room, immediately changes everything. Shadows become less ominous. Details are revealed, and the contours of the unseen become clear. But it is not always the case that those who have been comfortable in darkness will appreciate the sudden illumination. In fact, often the response to light is not gratitude, but resistance. Those who have spent years navigating the comfort of shadows find the arrival of light jarring, uncomfortable, and even frightening. Light does not simply reveal, it confronts. This is the nature of a powerful aura. It is not always comfortable to be near someone whose energy is fully aligned, whose presence is whole, and whose authenticity is unfiltered. A person who carries such energy does not need to say a word. Their very being acts as a source of illumination, and in this illumination, shadows are cast. The darkness within others, those parts of themselves they have pushed away, repressed, or forgotten, cannot help but surface. It is in the nature of light to expose what has long been hidden, and in the nature of the unconscious to resist exposure. It's important to understand that this process is not intentional, nor is it malicious. A person who is simply living as they truly are does not set out to disrupt or disturb others. Their very existence, however, can trigger unconscious responses in those around them. They do not create the darkness, they simply bring light, which inevitably brings up the darkness that has been allowed to linger in the shadows. This is where the discomfort begins. Others may feel unsettled, not because of something the person has done, but because something inside them is being seen for the first time. It's as though the very essence of their own hidden struggles, insecurities, or unresolved emotions has been called into question, and the instinct of the unconscious is to resist. It would rather stay in the familiar obscurity of ignorance than face the sharp clarity of illumination. In truth, darkness is not inherently bad. It is a necessary part of life. Just as the night is needed for rest and the soil is needed for growth, the shadows of the unconscious are essential for the process of integration and self-awareness. However, most people spend their lives avoiding the darkness. They avoid it through distractions, through busyness, through social expectations, and sometimes through denial. They do not want to face the parts of themselves that are hidden away, be it their fears, their wounds, or the aspects of their psyche they have long disowned. And this avoidance becomes their comfort. But when someone with a powerful, authentic presence steps into their lives, this avoidance is disrupted. Suddenly they can no longer ignore the discomfort within. They can no longer pretend that the shadow self does not exist. This is where the disturbance occurs. The person who brings light does not intend to awaken the shadows in others. They are simply living truthfully, but their radiance stirs the very things that others have tried so hard to keep buried. It's as though a barrier has been lifted and the parts of the self that were once hidden can no longer remain in the dark. In this way, the light of a powerful aura is a call to confront the hidden. And this confrontation can feel violent to those who have spent years carefully constructing their identities around avoidance, suppression, and denial. The individual with a powerful aura, whether they are aware of it or not, becomes a living metaphor for the process of individuation, the journey of integrating all aspects of the self. And for those not yet ready to embark on that journey, their presence is often overwhelming. It is not just their physical presence that disturbs, it is the energetic call to become whole, to face the fragmented parts of oneself that have been hidden for so long. This process of disturbance is not limited to personal interactions. It can ripple outward in larger societal contexts as well. A society that is entrenched in false ideals, superficial values, or collective fear often resists individuals who embody truth, whether they are artists, leaders, or spiritual seekers. Those who live authentically are often viewed with suspicion or hostility. They disrupt the social fabric by refusing to conform to collective expectation. The more someone shines in their own truth, the more they challenge the darkness of collective denial. It is no wonder then that such individuals are often misunderstood or rejected. To allow their light to remain unchallenged would be to allow the illusion of the collective to crumble, and the collective psyche, much like the individual unconscious, resists change with all its might. Yet this disturbance is not a cause for despair. While it can be painful, it is a necessary part of growth. The light of the authentic individual forces others to reckon with themselves, to confront the darkness that they may have spent years avoiding. In the presence of light, the shadows are revealed, but they are not meant to be feared. Rather, they are an invitation to move deeper into the self, to explore what has been hidden, and to integrate the pieces of the soul that have been rejected or abandoned. For the person who brings light, this process of disturbance can feel isolating. It can feel as though they are walking through a world of shadows, unable to connect with others in a meaningful way. Yet, it is precisely through this very isolation that they serve a vital purpose. They are not simply passive witnesses to the world. They are agents of transformation. They remind others that there is more to life than the surface, more to the self than the mask. And in this reminder, they offer a challenge to step into the light and face what has been hidden. In conclusion, a powerful aura is not something that can be faked or contrived. It is the natural result of a life lived authentically, a life of inner alignment and deep self-awareness. Such an aura does not just radiate outward. It triggers responses, stirs emotions, and challenges others in ways both subtle and profound. We have explored the way an individual's energy can stir unconscious reactions, create discomfort, and disturb the fragile constructs others have built around themselves. It is in this disturbance that transformation occurs. When you stand in your truth, fully grounded in who you are, your very presence becomes a mirror to others, sometimes a mirror they are not yet ready to face. The light you emit will always disturb the darkness, but it will also offer the opportunity for those around you to confront their own shadows, to grow and to awaken to a deeper understanding of themselves. Your aura is powerful because it is an embodiment of authenticity, of integrity, and of a courageous commitment to be whole. And while this can sometimes create distance between you and those who are still living behind masks, it is also the very thing that holds the potential for deeper, more meaningful connections with those who are ready to see beyond the surface. So if you feel your presence unsettling others, remember, it is not an accident nor a flaw. It is the natural consequence of living a life that speaks truth. Stand firm in your light, knowing that even if it disturbs, it also awakens. For in the end, it is only through disturbance that true transformation occurs, both in yourself and in those around you. The world needs those who are willing to be powerful enough to disturb, for it is through this very disturbance that change, growth, and ultimately healing take place. Thank you.